So before I get started on this podcast, before I get started on Bam Bam Bam, I just wanted to share this with you. And, I'm a very unpopular person on YouTube. So for me to have racked up over 400,000 lifetime views on this channel, that is an incredible achievement for me. And it's a personal achievement, maybe not an incredible achievement. But for me, who is always about honesty and about being forthright and telling the truth, and for me being unpopular, that is quite a personal achievement. Now, it's not a major achievement, and this is not something that I'm going to get out the champagne for. Absolutely not. Oh, and apparently I'm making millions off of YouTube, and I've got houses everywhere. I wish. That's what one of my past subs have said to me, that I'm just raking it in on YouTube and I'm making millions. I actually keep getting reminded of you by YouTube to set up things like membership and super chat and super thanks, things which I haven't even done yet. But for somebody who is not popular to have racked up this many lifetime views, basically most of these views come from me just telling you my opinion on something. That is quite something, because I'm not popular at all, and I'm not striving to be popular. And I know that a lot of these views have also come from my detractors and my critics. And that's amazing. And I also want to tell you, for anyone who wants to start a YouTube channel, views are not the most important thing. In fact, my views have been quite low recently. My views have been quite low. But views are not the most important thing on YouTube. If you have a shorts channel, for example, and you've got 10 million views from those short videos, you're not going to make any money. It is your watch time. And I hope you pay attention to this for anyone who wants to start a YouTube channel, because everyone thinks it's the views, it's the views, it's the views. It's not your views as much as your watch time. It's your watch time that is really, really what is important, which is what's going to garner you money. It's how long people are watching your videos for. That is more important, far more important than the views. A lot of people have a lot of, they don't understand YouTube, and they believe that if you get 1 million views on something, then you're going to make tons of money on it. If I made a short video and got 5 million views on a short video, if I put out a short video and got 5 million views, that wouldn't make me any money. But if I put out a video that lasts at least 18 minutes and got 5 million views on it, that would make me a lot more money. But it's not the views that are as important. It is your watch time hours. I cannot stress this enough. And I never used to understand it when I started YouTube. It is your watch time that is important. It's how long people are spending watching, listening to you. It is your watch time hours, not your views, that make the biggest impact on your channel. I want to thank everybody, even my critics, who come and listen to me and watch me and spend time, because you are spending time watching and listening to me when you could be doing something else. So even my critics I thank for this very, it's a major achievement for me, because I'm very unpopular, and I know that, and I'm not striving to be popular. But I also know that a lot of these views come from people who are not fans of mine, and that's absolutely fine. I never knew what was going to happen when I started my YouTube channel. I never knew what was going to transpire. I never knew how it was going to go. And, for me, this is quite incredible, because basically most of these views really do come from me just talking to you and telling you my honest opinion on something. And you have to be brave, and you have to have courage to do that. You have to have a bit of ego, to be honest with you, because there's going to be a lot of people who don't like what you have to say. And you have to have that confidence and that ego, just enough ego, not too much ego, but just enough ego to give you that confidence and that extra drive, because you're going to have a lot of people who don't like what you have to say. And that's what I wanted to share with you today. Thank you very much, guys. Bam, I know you're watching this. Are you contacting departments again? Are you going to contact the press? That Bam Bam she's a funny one. I mean, well, depending on how you look at it. I mean, there's two sides. There's the smooth side, and there's the sharper edge to her. But and I'll get onto this in a minute. I've told you, I've shared this with you, and you may not all know, but some of you might know that I've been deeply affected by what's been going on in the Middle East lately, and I've been watching a lot of coverage on what's been going on. And what I'm getting from the news is that people are looking at things from both sides of the coin and looking at who to point the finger at and who is to blame. Is it the Israelis? Is it the Palestinians? And I've been watching coverage of this on First Post, which is a channel that I've just discovered through this news, through what happened on October the 7th. And I've also been watching Piers Morgan and his debates with Palestinians. And, you know, some of these videos that he's doing is getting like 4 million views in just a few days, 50 million views. And I realize that a lot of people like to see debating, and people like to see things that are contrary. For example, if I was to get Bam or Bis Mensa on my channel, which I would like to do a collaboration of people that I have opposing opinions to on my channel one day, and have, you know, just have it out with them, because I actually look at what's going on in Gaza a bit like the Watts and the Shiners scenario, where you have people on opposing sides and you've got little splinter groups who have very, very different opinions. You know, I've shared with you what my opinion is. I believe that Chris did this on his own. I don't believe NK was involved. And that's it. You know, I don't believe anyone else was involved. I believe Chris did this on his own, and I think he planned it. My old friend Bam, she believes something opposite, although we do have some similar opinions. I do agree with her that the environment that Chris was living in was claustrophobic. I believe that he wanted to end the environment that he was living in. I think he wanted a new clean slate. And I think me and Bam both agree that Ed K wasn't involved, or at least that's what it seems to be the case for both of us. But when it comes to other things and surrounding things, associated things, we have very different opinions. And I think we were probably going to clash at some point. One of her opinions was that AD was going to get compensation. He was going to get paid for loss of earnings. She had this obsession. Bam had this obsession that AD was going to get compensation for loss of earnings for the time his channel wasn't in use. There was a short time before all of this happened, you know, when he was taken down eventually, where his channel wasn't, when he wasn't allowed to upload to his channel, and she credited herself for taking him down, but she never took him down. It's just that he wasn't allowed to upload for a period of time. And she said to me many times in the past that he can get compensation for loss of earnings for during that time, and compensation for other things that people have said about him. So should NK get compensation for the fact that he pointed the finger in her direction? I don't think so. She had this obsession that AD was going to get compensation for loss of earnings. And I never ever saw where she was coming from with that. But I think she got annoyed when she saw that I wasn't buying that. And, you know, she would almost say, AD's going to win, AD's going to win, AD's going to win. And she would like push that agenda that AD was going to win and that AD was going to get compensation. And she actually wanted him to get compensation, despite the fact that she claimed many things about him. And I always said, it's never going to happen. AD's not going to get compensation. And I don't think she liked that very much. She very much had this fantasy that AD was going to get some kind of compensation and teach the Rusex a lesson. It's never going to happen now, especially now that he's gone. It's not going to happen. Another thing that I disagree with her on, and like I said, this is me talking about the opposing sides of the coin, just like what's going on in Gaza, you know, Israeli versus Palestinians, and, you know, Watts versus Shiners, because I see what's going on there very much like that. This idea that Chris snapped, I don't agree with. I don't buy that for 1 second. What he did was a lot more than a snap. You know, this was an entire family found at his workplace. That's more than just snapping. Snapping is when, somebody accidentally spills coffee over you, which has happened to me at one time, and you have a tantrum or something over it and let them know what's what. A snap is, what he did was far, far more than a snap. That's completely discarding people. That's not a snap. And he knew exactly what he was doing. Her idea that Shanann made him do this, I don't agree with either. He had a choice. He had family. He could have called his family and said, look, I want out of this. And his family would have been more than happy to support him. You see how much they support him still after all that he's done. He had other options and he had other choices. Shanann cannot be blamed for what happened. So I very much disagree with her on that side of the scale. Now, there's lots of people who come to me or come to my channel who have opposing opinions, and I try to let everyone get their voice or let their voice be heard on my channel, despite what their opinion is, as long as they are respectful. But at some point, people are going to clash over their opinions because, like I said, I just don't believe NK was involved. But there are people who I have as subs who are adamant that she was involved. And there are people who come to my channel who are adamant that she was involved and get upset with me because I don't buy it. Just like Bam, I think she would get annoyed when I didn't buy that AD was going to get this compensation. And I think she even made a comment about, AD coming back. And she doesn't seem to understand that he was really taken down this time. And not because of anything that she did, that he was just taken down. And if he's going to come back, it's going to be like a Natasha thing. It's going to be like Natasha Cooper evading. So, we definitely had very, very, very different opinions. And I think she has an agenda. I think Frankie should pay the people who gave him, donated to him. I think he should refund them, but he's not going to do it. And it doesn't matter how much noise she makes about it. He's not going to do it. I do feel sympathy for people who did donate. But at the same time, once you donated, it's going to be very, very difficult now after all this time to get that money back. And, you made the decision to donate. I didn't. So, yes, I do believe he should refund people, but he's never going to give that money back. And it doesn't matter how many times you get online and say, give people, refunds. He's never going to do it. Frankie wants money. He doesn't want to give money. He wants money for whatever reason. There's a lot more that I could say here because Bam and I were close and we talked often and we did share a lot. And I never told her anything that I wouldn't tell you. I just would probably tell you in a different way. And, it's always a little bit sad when a friendship hits roadblocks or ends. But, that's life. That's part of life. And we have to have tools, learn ways in which to deal with certain things in life because that's what makes us stronger and better. But I don't regret any of the associations that I've had on YouTube because I've learned a great deal from my time on YouTube and from being close to her. She told me a lot. What I can say is that I've never seen somebody that has such dislike for the R's as much as her. But anyway, I'm getting more political in this part of the podcast, and I can't say the H word. You know what happened on October the 7th in Israel? You know who did it? But I can't say the H word, so I'm just going to call them armchair generals. And I tell you, I've been watching this channel, First Post. If you have any interest in this topic, go to First Post. I think their coverage is very interesting. But one of the things that seems apparent or may be apparent, is that the leaders of this organization live five-star luxury, affluent lives, while their people are, living as second-class citizens. So while they're saying people should stay in Gaza, they're living in places like Turkey and Qatar, and they're living very wealthy, affluent lives. Their children are real estate tycoons. They have businesses. They can get to travel in and out of the country and anywhere they want. They could be living in America. Some of them could be living in America. Some of them could be living in London. Some of them could be living in Australia or New Zealand. They can travel wherever they want. They have freedom. While their people, who they pretend to care about, I would say, or proclaim to care about, are living as second-class citizens and need aid. Now, I don't know about you. What do you guys think about Biden's trip to Israel? Does Biden ever open his eyes? I'm just kidding. I'm actually, like I said, I'm part Democrat, part Republican, so I don't have I pretty much like Biden, so, I don't have anything. I think where you stand on this topic, I mean, there's just so much that goes into it, because it's like with the shiners and the whats, I can see things from both sides of the coin. I have sympathy for both Israelis who experienced that on October the 7th, great sympathy. But I also have sympathy for the Palestinians, great sympathy. And for most people, and one of the reasons why I'm unpopular is because I see things from both sides, and I realize that there's shades of grey in everything, in almost everything, and in almost every topic, and that things are not necessarily just black and white. There's a lot of history. I was going through some history today. I've never been interested in history. One of my parents was, but I never was. And I was reading about Jewish people in this country. We have a sizable Jewish population in London, and I live in the Totteridge area, which is an affluent area. And Jews in certain parts of the world are known to be affluent. You take somewhere like New York. Originally, the Jews of New York were affluent, educated people. The Italians, the Irish were working class. The Puerto Ricans were working class, and the Jews were considered, the more affluent people. And wherever Jews go, they tend to flourish. However, wherever Jews go, they tend to have this happen to them as well. And reading about the history of the Jews in this country was really quite an eye-opener, because I had no idea. Many of the Jewish people in England who have settled in London, and like I said, in the Totteridge area, Barnet, such areas, there's a high population of Jews. Golders Green has one of the highest populations of Jews in this country. And, I haven't had that many Jewish friends, but I do love Jewish matzo ball soup, Jewish penicillin. I do love their food. I think Jewish culture is beautiful and wonderful. And I think Arab culture is wonderful. So, I'm not necessarily on either side. I think it comes to a point where it doesn't matter who's wrong or right anymore. There needs to be a resolution, but there also comes to a point when people have to recognize that certain people cannot live side by side peacefully, and that will never happen. No matter how many peace talks happen, they cannot live side by side. And this is the situation here. You're going to have a lot of Palestinians emigrating to other countries who are going to be displaced. Egypt is going to get a lot of Palestinians coming in. Jordan, Syria, the neighboring countries. And that's going to be a problem. But like I said, I was reading about do you know that David Beckham has Jewish ancestry? A lot of people don't know that. Just as they don't know that Bob Marley is biracial. Bob Marley is the son of a black Jamaican mother and a white Jamaican father. A lot of people don't know that. There's so much, and I was reading about the history of Madeira, a Portuguese island where Cristiano Ronaldo was born. And I learned so much today. I didn't have any idea that Berbers and people in North Africa also experienced things that people from West Africa experienced. And there's so much history to what's going on over there in the Middle East that to dissect it would take forever. And there's just so many layers to this story. But the thing about Biden's visit is that I think he felt he had to show solidarity with Israel for whatever reason. You know, it's a good photo opportunity, but also showing compassion for Gaza and, you know, saying, you know, we have to allow aid to these people. And it's one of these things where you just cannot win. You cannot win. And some people want you to choose a side. And that's what's happened with the Watts case. A lot of people wanted me to choose a side. And I've never, ever been able to. I've always been on the border. Because while I recognize that what Chris did is absolutely not what you're supposed to do ever, while I recognize that he made the wrong decision, I also recognize that Shanann wasn't perfect, that she was probably difficult to live with. But there was another answer to his issues. There was another answer to the problems. There was another answer to the dilemma. And sometimes choosing the right answer isn't easy. And there's no easy answer to what's going on in the Middle East. But I hope for a resolution. But I know that realistically, this will never happen. And sometimes we have to be realistic in life rather than having a fantasy of what's going to happen. We need to be realistic. Just like I'm realistic when I say I'm not popular because of my opinions, because I'm so honest. People don't like that. I'm outspoken. But yet my channel has garnered over 400,000 lifetime views. So, and that's just a stepping stone. That's not the pinnacle. You know, it's hundreds of thousands of views that this channel will garner over time. That's just a bridge or a point to start from. It's not, you know, this is not amazing figures by any means. It's just a place to start from. And, you know, sometimes in life we have to have stepping stones, but I don't see what's going on over there in the Middle East. I don't think it's going to be resolved anytime soon, but I do wish for peace on both sides, but I know how unrealistic wishing for peace is. I do realize that.